Dave the Builder on KFM with Premier Timber Frame Homes, your expert guide to self-built homes. PremierTimberFrameHomes.ie.
Yeah, week 8 of our building slot with Dave the Builder, Dave McManus. Dave, good to have you back in studio again, and I see already the messages coming in thick and fast. So tell us what we're talking about first of all this morning and where we're picking it up from.
Yeah, so I suppose where we're picking it up from is last week we had the house up, we had the underfloor heating in, we had the solar panels on the roof, and I suppose we're on to that's kind of the first fix plumbing. Obviously you'd be getting your first fix pipes in for your bathrooms and stuff like that. We're on to the electrical part of the build this week. So I suppose I just have a few kind of pointers straight off the mark is it's something that doesn't get looked at enough in my opinion. So the first step I advise to do is go to an electrical consultant, right? Mm-hmm. And he will do up an electrical design for your house and your lifestyle. So he'd sit down with you, go through how your life is structured and how your electrical needs would, need to be in the house. And it's something that people don't do. Like they'd particularly, get an electrician in and they'd ask them pointers. Now, if you can think of an electrical contractor, first of all, they're very, very busy, Second of all, if they have a product that they want to sell, they're going to try and sell you that product. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you go to a consultant, they're not worried about that type of thing. And if you think about an electrical design, I don't see many people getting an electrical design. But if you think about a kitchen, would you order a kitchen without a kitchen design? Mm-hmm. No, you wouldn't. You need an electrical design. You'd probably get an electrical design done up for 1 or 2% of the total cost of the electrical cost.
Is that just essentially then where you're going to have your power points, what way it's going to be laid out around the room, or what is that electrical design?
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be all of those things, and it would, in regards to solar panels, in regards to, even what type of light switches or what type of sockets. So if you can imagine an electrical contractor coming in, giving you a price, they're going to give you standard price, and maybe they come in with their typical white switch or typical white sockets, and you say, oh jeez, hold on, I actually don't like them now. You know what I mean? So you could, with the consultant, you could say, well, I want this type, or even you could get samples off the electrician, so you're just aware of it. Because I've seen people, you could have let's say 40 sockets in their house and 40 light switches, and they're all, no, we don't like this one, but we want to go with that one, but they're an extra tenner each. Doesn't be long about accumulating up, you know what I mean? That's one of the things. Obviously, if you were putting in electrical gates down the line to put in the ducting and stuff like that, and if you were going to have an outside lawnmower robot, that, you know what I mean? So you're future-proofing your property for the electrical stuff, you know what I mean?
And I think you made that point actually last week when you were talking about the solar panels, that kind of think ahead. Even if you're not putting in electric gates now when you're building the house, it's a lot easier to put them in 5 or 10 years down the road if you've done the groundwork now.
Absolutely. If they look at, even if you have the plan in place now, if you weren't putting them in, you have the plan in place, that's definitely the way to go about it. And another thing as well that I see happening a little bit is the electrical design and the kitchen design mightn't match up. So you have the electric, or the first fix electrical happening, and then the kitchen comes in after, and they don't match up, and you've cupboards covering sockets and stuff like that. And it's a little thing, if you're aware of it, you can cross-check the kitchen design with the electrical design. But if you're not aware of it, these things happen. We see it all the time.
Chicken and egg question then. Which comes first? Should you do your kitchen plan first or your electrical plan first? Or do them together?
Yeah, look, it could be the case that you do your kitchen plan first, and then you work your electrics around it. But you're nearly doing them simultaneously, in your own head. But it's definitely worth cross-checking them.
OK, we were talking about electric vehicles there before the news at 10 o'clock, and Francis in Monastrevan has just texted in to say, is it possible to get an electric vehicle charging point put in when you're doing this kind of work, or is that completely separate altogether?
No, this is absolutely it's absolutely necessary that you do it now, especially on a new build. Now, there is certain companies that specialise in it, but a lot of the electricians today, it's the way the whole system is going. So most of them would be able to do it.
And the same can be said then for outside electrical charging points for your lawnmower or for whatever you might, if you've an outside heater that you want to plug in when you're doing the barbecue during the summer, that can all be done at the same time as the inside of the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Done now. As I said, they'd be the type of stuff that you'd be sitting down with your electrical consultant and going through. And even what I do always say to people is, if you get your big set of architectural plans out and you get a blue marker for the sockets, a green marker for the switches, a red marker for outside, and X them all off. And this is another little thing as well, and it's the trade that I noticed that gets added on more extras. So if you get a price of, let's say for argument's sake, 10,000 for your electrical work, right, and then it's the thing that I see couples, oh no, we need another socket there, we need a point out there, we need a light out here, and we need so on and so forth. And by the time you get to the end of the electrical work, you could have 2 or 3 grand added on, so it's one of those type of trades where you're adding on as you go.
Mary in our clock has texted in. She says, apologies if this sounds like a silly question, but is there still a main switchboard in new build houses? You think back to my house, it was built in the 70s. We have trip switches and all of that, but is that still the case now in new builds?
It is, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
And where would they be located? Does it depend? Can you decide where to put them?
I suppose it's definitely a question for the electrical consultant. Usually you'd see them in a utility room or somewhere that wouldn't be, kind of, because they're a little bit gaudy looking sometimes, it could be inside the back door. I do know, for instance, that you have to have your electrical box for the ESB box. That has to be on a side that's facing the road, rather than years ago the ESB man used to have to come in and round the house and maybe get a dog out the back or something like this and get chased around the house. But you have to have them on a side that's close to the gate now. I do know that, so that could possibility for that. Yeah.
There's another one in from Laura in Ballybritis. She wants to upgrade her heating system, and she's asking, is an air to water heat pump a good idea for an older house built in the 1990s?
So there's a couple of things that she'd want to look at there first. I suppose she'd want to get an energy rating done on her house. When she has the energy rating done on the house, she could need to upgrade, let's say, insulation. As we talked about last week, she might have to get the insulation done around the outside of the house and make sure that her house is as airtight as possible. And if she has all of that done, you need a specific type of air-to-water heat pump. You can't just get any old one. It has to be specially designed. There is air-to-water heat pumps that works better on older houses.
OK, there's another message in then. This is from James in Ballyteague. He says he has a high roof on his house. There's no upstairs though. What steps must he take if he wants to upgrade his attic space into a livable area? So essentially he wants to convert his attic.
Yeah, look, the first thing I do, it would be to have a chat with a local structural engineer, get him over, and you would technically need a structural plan for the to make the roof a livable area, I see a lot, if carpenters have done that type of work in the past, you'll see experienced carpenters and they'll know what to do. But if something goes wrong, who does the cost lie on? And it will lie on the customer, not the carpenter,
Because often if you're getting the attic converted, and I know just from speaking to some people who got it done, it can often take a chunk out of some room. Maybe the box room gets nearly cut in half in order to get the attic converted. With the newer houses, though, they nearly plan ahead for that now. You can kind of future-proof it again and say, well, if you ever plan on getting the attic converted, here's where the stairs will go, so you're not going to lose space in other rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, at the stairs is going to take up a big chunk of somewhere downstairs. But I'll tell you what we do in particular, and we've actually done it last week. So we provide a set of attic roof trusses. So the attic roof truss is the timber is about twice the thickness of a standard roof truss, and the space is there structurally. So if the customer wants to go up there in a few years' time, or for the moment they can just use it for storage, but the structure is there, and that means that they can just go up whenever they want.
Yeah, because Lucia actually out in Ballymore Eustace has texted in and said that she's in the process of building her house. She doesn't have the budget at the moment to convert the attic space, but she wants to have it nearly ready to go in 2 or 3 years down the line. So what advice would you give to her? Would you kind of advise those attic trusses that you've mentioned?
Absolutely. She would definitely want to put in a set of attic roof trusses now, and as I said, she's welcome to give me a call. I'll have a chat with her about it and run through what the best way of doing it would be. But definitely, and it's not going to cost a massive amount now to do it on her budget, you know.
Peter asks a question: can you insulate an existing flat roof? What's the handiest way to do it?
Yes, so you can insulate. I suppose there's a few different ways of doing it. It depends on a few different things. If the flat roof is already watertight, he might want to try and do it from the underneath. He could take down his plasterboard from inside, and you could get it spray foamed up, which would be a good job, and then put on an insulated plasterboard. If he wants to do that from the inside, that's one way of doing it. If he wants to do it from the top, he can also do it from the top, but you'd have to get it resealed. So there's companies that especially come out and they'd put an extra 150 mil on the top of a flat roof, and then you would seal over that again with, let's say, fiberglass or Trocol or something like that.
Is it harder to do a flat roof than it is to do a kind of slanted roof?
Well, look at... I don't particularly like flat roofs that much because you don't have that much room for error, you know what I mean? But once they're done, we subcontract in a company that does them, and they specialise in flat roofs all the time, you know. You just have to be careful with flat roofs. There's a lot of laws that you have to abide by, and if you don't abide by them, you're screwed.
And you'll be told about it as well if you're not abiding by them.
Yeah.
Larry out in Milltown has also got in touch with us. He says, I have a leak in my kitchen coming down from the bathroom. We think it's the shower, but it's spread now all across the top of the roof. I'm obviously going to have to replace it. Do I need to take down the whole roof? It's the ceiling really of the kitchen, yeah.
Look at the thing about any type of leak, roof leak or pipe leak or even a small drop of water can look like it's after been devastated with water. I've seen some of the smallest drops of waters coming in different areas, and it just looks like your roof is gone forever, you know what I mean? He probably will have to first of all sort out the leak in the shower, and I wouldn't think about replacing the ceiling until the shower is completely fixed. Once he gets the shower completely fixed, he might have to take down a plasterboard and put up the plasterboard and get it re-skimmed. Now, you don't have to take down the whole ceiling. You might have to take down, let's say, an 8x4 sheet and put it up. But it's probably not as bad as it sounds.
OK, there's another one in here. This is quite an open-ended question, but you'll understand what it means, hopefully. And it says, does Dave know anything about public liability when it comes to building? So there's obviously some sort of law in there in public liability, is there?
Yeah, so I presume that they're talking about building their own house and the liability that lies there. So the fact of the matter is that the person building the house, who owns the land and is building the house, they're responsible for what goes on, really. You know what I mean? If somebody either working there or passing through falls and hurts themselves in whatever type of way, something falls and hits them, the person that owns the site is responsible. So they need liability insurance before they start a self-build project, and they also need to make sure that the builders or the contractors, they all have liability insurance as well.
OK, there's another message then that says, we're planning on getting our attic converted and we're hoping to put in the Velux windows. Do we need planning permission for the Velux windows?
If it's at the back of the house, usually not. If it's at the front of the house, I would say yes, but I'd say just have a chat with your local architect. Usually on the back of the house you can put on stuff that, you know, it doesn't, so that's what I'd say. Have a chat with your local architect, but if it's at the back or the sides, you should be okay.
Another one here says, Dave mentioned a few weeks ago the name of a company that builds granny flats. I didn't catch it back then. I'm wondering if you could repeat it, because we're planning on doing one in the next 6 months or so. Yeah,
so it's actually a lady builder. She's from Leakslip. She does a lot of work in Dublin and parts of Kildare and Wicklow, and it's called grannyflat.ie, and she's a great reputation, and she's able to do up designs in 3D, and before you ever even, dig a hole, you can kind of walk through the house or walk through the granny flat and see what it's like. So she's marvellous, Good
stuff. Grannyflat.ie, that answers that question. Finally then, Dave, just kind of to wrap up then on the electrical side of things, you've gone through the advice for people, but anything else that we need to touch on that?
Yeah, look, it just, as I say, on getting quotes, get 3 quotes. As I say, Your electrical consultant should only cost a few €100, €200 or €300. You will definitely have savings on that, because there will be stuff that you forget if you don't do that. And look at that. I think that's it for today.
Good stuff. And remind us again how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so we're most active on social media. Facebook is Premier Timber Frame Homes. Instagram and TikTok is Dave at Premier Timber Frame Homes. And the email address is info@premiertimberframehomes.ie.
We'll do it at the same time next Thursday, just after 10 o'clock. Dave McManus from Premier Timber Frame Homes. Good to talk to you as always.
Dave the Builder on KFM with Premier Timber Frame Homes, your expert guide to self-built homes. PremierTimberFrameHomes.ie.